In Gaia Project, you start with some ore and credits, which round one you can spend putting these structures out into the Terra Mystica galaxy. But every time you put a structure out, it reveals this outstretched hand of income for you. You're going to get that round two, which you can spend on putting more structures out, which will give you more income, and that's how you build an engine in this game. Simple, right? Well, there are some pitfalls. Let me give you some pointers. In a game of Gaia Project, you want to balance your resources so that you're able to afford those structures that are on your faction board. But those structures, they all cost both ore and credits, right? So if you have a lot of credits and no ore, you will not be able to build a single thing. Or if you have a lot of ore and no credits, you won't be able to build anything. And having a lot of a particular resource sitting on your faction board at the end of a round would be bad, because you want to be investing the resources in the structures, because the structures are giving you income at the start of the next round, whereas resources sitting on your faction board, they're not doing anything for you. As a beginner, there was one particular pitfall for me, which was that you start the game with some ore and some ore income, but you start with a lot of credits and no credit income. So what I did was, I thought I had a lot of credits and spent them all and didn't establish an income of credits. Then suddenly in round two, I found myself with no credits and I couldn't build anything and my game engine stalled. So now let's talk about how to avoid that happening to you. Okay, you start the game with 2 mines on the board. You could just upgrade them to trading stations and that will give you credit income, but the mines will go back on your faction board, choking your ore income. So you will also want to, in round one, somehow expand out in the galaxy and get those mines back out on the board. And whenever you upgrade to trading stations, you do want to try and get that range 2 discount on upgrading the trading station. So whenever you place your initial mines, try and get within range 2 of another player for that reason. There's an alternative to 2 trading stations, which is you could upgrade to trading station and then upgrade the trading station. And there's 2 directions that you can go there, of course. So let's have a look at those 2 options now. If you upgrade your trading station, it's going to go back on its spot, meaning you're not going to have any credit income. If you're going for the Planetary Institute, that's going to give you power income. So at the start of round 2, you could use your power to go for that action spot that gives you credits. And in that way, you could balance your resources. But what if you're not going first and somebody else takes it? Then you could be left high and dry. But maybe you can get to that credits power action spot in round 1. In round 1, if you can get 3 or 4 power to spend, then that really is terrific. And for that reason, perhaps your first action in the game could be to upgrade one of your mines where you have neighbors. That way, whenever they do any buildings or upgrades, then you can potentially charge more power for victory points. But if you can charge power in round 1 and get a chance to take one of those power action spots to help you balance your resources, then that's a really good idea. If you upgrade to Research Lab instead, then you're still losing your credit income, but a simple thing to do would be just to take the tech tile that gives you credit income. So that's something to consider. Other options are you could get a bit of credit income from the round booster, or if you build a research lab and take a tech tile, then you get to move up a research track and you could start moving up the one that gives you credit or power income. What if you're struggling for ore? Well, take note that one step up the terraform track, that gets you 2 ore, which is a great boost at the start of the game. And spending power for 2 ore is always a great power action to go for. But can you get some of those mines back out into the galaxy in order to increase your ore income. That is a great thing to do, but of course the two challenges you're facing is that you cannot really terraform, it's too expensive, and also you have range 1. How are you supposed to get a mine out on the galaxy whenever terraforming one step costs 3 ore? Well, you want to avoid paying ore for that terraform, so what you could do is spend QIC on a green Gaia planet to make it habitable. So if there are any green Gaia planets nearby, you want to go for them. In fact, if there's any competition for them, then my first action of the game is going to be going and getting that green Gaia planet. Another option is to spend power for the terraform, and there's a great power action that's really useful early game. There's even a round booster that gives you a free terraforming step, so that's pretty amazing. Of course, building a mine on a planet of your own faction color is not going to require any terraforming, but in that case you're going to need range, and at the start of the game your range is 1. You could use your QIC for range, perhaps to reach a planet of your faction color, or there is this round booster that gives you +3 range, which would be pretty nice. But you can actually get up to range 2 on the research track first round if you build a research lab. And you could then find yourself with range 2 and having 2 QIC, so you could quite possibly reach 2 green Gaia planets in the first round of the game, and in that way get 2 mines out, as well as perhaps trading stations, and that would be like a great way to start the game. So those are some ideas about how you might get some mines out on the galaxy in round 1, so that you're getting some ore income as well as credit income. And remember, you're trying to get both so that you're able to keep on building those structures. But hang on, this game is not about income, it's about victory points. So let's remind ourselves what we're trying to achieve in a game of Gaia Project. What you're trying to do is build those structures so that they have a combined power of 7. Then you can form a federation, which will mean that you get a federation token, which is worth points and resources, but also that token is going to give you permission to grab one of the prizes at the top of the research tracks. And what do I mean by prizes? At the top of the research track, there's 2 prizes. Either you could get into the top spot, there's only room for 1 player there, or you could grab the advanced tech tile, which isn't replaced. So it's like there are 2 prizes at the top of each research track, and you are only allowed to take a prize if you have a federation token in order to flip. If you get to the top of the research track and you don't have federation tokens to flip in order to grab the prizes, then that is a shame. Or on the other hand, maybe you sort out your federation tokens, but then by the time you get to the top of the track, the other players have already taken everything. That's bad too. So you do need to watch your competition going up each research track. If you miss out, you could always take that 12-point federation token. But really, if you, in your beginner first game of Gaia Project, if you got 3 federation tokens and used them to get 3 prizes, then you have totally smashed it. It would be great if those prizes formed a coherent strategy, perhaps even with the round scoring tiles and final scoring tiles, but getting 3 federations and 3 prizes is not easy at all, and that is a great goal to set for yourself in your first few games of Gaia Project. But perhaps even as beginners, we could give a little bit of thought to which research track to advance up. For example, if you went up the navigational track, you could have the range to avoid doing a lot of terraforming. You could reach planets that are your own faction color or just require 1 step, and then you could use power or You could use a round booster to do the terraforming, and you could reach the green Gaia planets, or if you were doing some Gaia forming, you could reach those trans-dim planets. So you see, if you were going up the navigational track, you don't actually need to go up the terraforming one as well. Or on the other hand, if you went up the terraforming track, then you could terraform the planets that are nearby you, and you could perhaps use QIC for range or a round booster for range, and in that way avoid the need for navigational range. So you see, you don't need to go up both the terraform research track and the navigational range. I think I would always go up one of the income tracks, either the one that gives you knowledge or the one that gives you ore credits and power. And of course, because it's income, you want to be doing that as early as possible to get the benefit. But don't worry if you make a misstep and go up the wrong research track, because there will always be other opportunities. Other opportunities to play Gaia Project. If you've made a misstep in this game, that means this game's over for you. You're finished. Of course, a major issue with learning Gaia Project is which of the 14 factions should you choose at the start of the game. And as a relative beginner myself, I'm not able to look at the board and scoring tiles and pick a faction really yet myself. But what I do is I look at the board and choose the faction color first based on the Terra Mystica galaxy. For example, look at this one here. In this case, the red player chose red because you see there are some orange planets adjacent, and on the terraforming spectrum, that orange is just one terraforming step away from red. And you can see here I've gone for grey because there's a lot of grey beside white planets, and I've gone for grey in particular there because you see that green Gaia planet is just range 2 away, and then there's another Gaia planet range 2 from that. So I was clearly thinking about that strategy of getting up to range 2 on the navigational track, and I think at the start of this game I actually did get mines on both of those green Gaia planets in round 1, which was pretty cool. If you're not the first person choosing a faction color, then another consideration is to choose a color that's not adjacent to anybody else, or to try and get away, because you don't want to end up stuck between two players who've taken the adjacent colors, because then you're going to be competing for everything across the Terra Mystica galaxy. But once you have chosen a color, then of course you're just choosing from two factions, which is a lot more manageable. Let's have a look at some of the factions that are recommended in the game. I can see why the Hajhalas are recommended for beginners, because once you get the Planetary Institute out, you're spending credits for other resources. So in that way, you don't have to stress about managing your resources. You can just focus on getting credits, because as long as you've got credits, then you're able to buy what you need in order to keep building out those structures. And if we look at the Taclons here, they give you this crystal, which is like worth 3 power tokens. And in that way, it's going to be easy for you to charge power if you have this faction. And of course, whenever you are spending power, then you have a choice. So again, that's giving you versatility, which is really valuable for a beginner. The Terrans faction is great if you want to do some Gaia forming as your strategy, because the power tokens from in the Gaia phase, they move straight into power area 2, and again you can spend that power as it moves there to get resources, again giving you flexibility and choices, which really helps out as a beginner. The Geodens are an interesting example here, because if you have this faction, then you really want to get the Planetary Institute out in round 1, because it gives you tons of knowledge every time you build on a new color of planet, which you will need to be getting on with early in the game. But all of that knowledge early in the game is going to get you up the research tracks and accelerate your game engine. But it's interesting because it's a bit scripted what you do in the first round, and nobody wants a game that gives you a board and tells you how to play the game, like strategy on rails. But I do not think that's what's going on with Gaia Project, because equally, nobody wants to be given a board and told, oh, you get 1 credit more per round, or something that's quite meaningless and insignificant. So you want characters and factions that are interesting and are powerful and make an impact. And I think Gaia Project gets it right, just like another game here, Voyages of Marco Polo. And with that, I think it is time to end this video transmission. If you are an intelligent life form receiving this, then please do send back a signal with a like or a subscribe, or even better, comment on the video. Because if I was a faction, I would be the extrovert faction. I charge my power from communicating and interacting with people. So indeed, I just encourage you to interact with the channel, say hello, and that's what gives me the encouragement to keep on making these videos, which I really enjoy doing. So thank you to everybody who's doing that, and I will see you in the next one.